Hello, this is Captain Farmer with the Training Division, and this is an in-service on the Ambu Perfit Ace C-collars that will be coming out and replacing the current C-collars that we have in the field. These collars will come in two sizes. There will be an adult size and a pediatric. The difference between the two is, of course, the size and the color. You'll notice that the pediatric collar is yellow. The functions and the features of each collar, though, are identical. How you utilize these collars as far as sizing for a patient is up to you in the field. These collars will be coming out in the near future. They'll be put in service to replace current stock as it's depleted. Alright, let's go ahead and look at some of the features of the new Ambu collar, and we'll also contrast those new features with the older collars that we currently have. First of all, there is a flip-out chin support that you'll find is a little awkward at first. It feels like you're going to break that piece off when you go to flip it out, but rest assured you're not. These C-collars will come packaged in a clear plastic wrapper similar to the C-collars you're using currently, but they'll lay more flat because this chin support is still folded in. Alright, this is a view of the unit as it comes stored flat, and this is a demonstration of how you'll flip the chin support out. Please remember to flip the chin support out prior to application. If you don't, the patient will be extremely uncomfortable and you will not be able to maximize C-spine immobilization for the patient. And now another feature of the Perfit is that it has 16 different adjustment positions, whereas the old collars, or the collars that are currently being used now, only have about 4 different positions. This will allow you to more or less fine-tune C-spine immobilization for the patient. Now that the pediatric collar only has about 12 different adjustment positions, so that's one difference between the adult and the pediatric collar. Another nice feature of the Perfit is that it has hooks on either side for the strap for a non-rebreather mask, so that the mask can be held in place without the use of tape, or maybe laying it on the patient's face and have it constantly falling off. So there's hooks on either side, and as indicated by the yellow arrow here, inside the green circle you'll find the hook for the non-rebreather straps. Just remember, when you place the mask on the patient, loop the strap down underneath the chin and underneath the chin support, and then pull it to either side and hook it behind the hooks. On the Perfit, you'll also find some locks and some ratcheting tabs. When you are preparing the collar for sizing, you'll need to make sure that the locks are in the unlocked position, or they might look like pins or buttons to you, but they're the locks. And the ratcheting tabs can be either in the fully open position, or they can be in, which allows the sizing to happen in one direction. Basically, when you're sizing the collar, and as you'll see in the next demonstration, the support that's underneath the chin support is what moves, and it'll move in one direction with the ratchet tabs in the in position, but it won't go back in the other direction. But in the next demonstration, pay attention to the locks and the ratchet tabs. Make sure that when you're finished sizing the collar, that the lock buttons or the lock pins, however you'd like to refer to them, are in the in position before you get ready to secure the patient to the backboard. Now let's look at the features that we just discussed. These are the locking pins or buttons. You'll move those in the out position and it's unlocked. These are the ratcheting tabs. If you move those into the outward position, then this part of the collar will move freely. It'll move back and forth, like you see here. Now if you take these ratcheting tabs and you move them in, you can pull down on the movable part of the collar and you'll hear a ratcheting or a clicking sound, and that allows you to adjust in one direction. You can also use this for fine-tuning your adjustment once you have the collar placed, and we'll talk about sizing in a minute. And don't forget, when you're finished sizing, to push the pins back in and finalize or lock the collar in place. Sizing the collar can happen in one of two ways. The preferred method is using the fingers on one hand and placing them between the jawbone of the patient, the mandible, and the collarbone, and count how many fingers you have, and that'll be used in basically sizing the collar prior to placing the collar on the patient. And now once you have the collar sized in this fashion and you have it in place on the patient, you can still make fine adjustments because, like I said, there are 16 different positions. As long as the ratchet tabs are in position, you can continue to move the part of the collar that actually moves downward and make sure there's no space between the chin and the collar support. This is an illustration of how to use your hand and your fingers to measure for proper sizing on a collar. The hand or number of fingers is placed between the jaw and the collarbone. And then you're going to take that number of fingers, whether it's 3, 4, or 2, transpose that measurement onto the collar. Now, when you get ready to do this, there's a line below the oxygen hooks that says sizing line. That's where you'll place the top of your finger on the one hand you measured with. Remember, before you start to size the collar, that the locking pins have to be unlocked and the ratchet tabs have to be moved into the out position to allow the collar to move freely for sizing. And once you've got the collar sized and placed, don't forget to push the ratchet tabs back in, and the locks need to be locked securely and make sure that the adjustment doesn't slip. Okay, this concludes the in-service on the Ambu Perfit Ace C-collars. Just remember a couple things from this in-service, that you need to flip out the chin support prior to applying the C-collar to a patient so you don't choke them, and you also have the maximum amount of C-spine protection and mobilization possible. Also remember that you can fine-tune the collar once it is in place, even if you use the preferred method of measuring and applying the collar, because there are so many different adjustment positions, 16 in all, 12 for the pediatric collar. Also remember, utilize the hooks when you're placing a patient on a non-rebreather and they also have this collar applied. You'll need to get the collar out and look at it prior to using it. Make sure that you're familiar with all the features again on the collar, especially these hooks. And also look at the locks and the ratchet tabs and learn how they operate, or be familiar with how they operate. And remember, when the collar is sized and in place, it's not going to be totally secure until the locking pins are mashed into place. And also remember, the preferred method of sizing the collar is using the hand or the fingers on one hand and transposing that measurement in fingers, the amount of fingers between the patient and the collar itself. And remember to secure the collar with the ratcheting tabs and the locking pins before you put the collar on. If you need to resize the collar once it's in place and take up space, for example, if there's space left between the chin and the chin support, just pull the locking pins out and you can continue to ratchet the collar or adjust the collar in one direction, but place the pins or locking pins back in the locking position prior to securing the patient onto the backboard. If you have any questions about the use of the Perfit collars, make sure you contact me, Captain Farmer, or Captain Spraddle in the training division, and we'll be glad to help you out. Thanks for your attention to this, and be careful out there.